Class is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Sandra Masonix and I'm the coordinator of the Municipal Solid Waste Initiative of the Climate and Clean Air Coalition to reduce short-lived climate pollutants. This coalition is also known as CCAC. I'll be the moderator in today's webinar. In this webinar, we'll be talking about how a large 5-star hotel was able to reduce food waste. For your information, this webinar will be recorded. This webinar, like other webinars hosted by the MSW initiative, is geared towards helping cities improve their waste management and reduce short-lived climate pollutants to mitigate climate change and improve air quality. The initiative is working with its partners to help cities address the waste challenge that generate methane and black carbon. As you can see in this slide, there are proven solutions to these challenges with multiple benefits. One of these solutions is the diversion of organic waste, which will require the participation of all stakeholders in the municipalities, including large organic waste generators like restaurants and hotels. This webinar will focus on how a large hotel was able to contribute to diverting organic waste from landfills. Before we get started, I would like to introduce our presenter today, Chef Kruno Velican. Chef Kruno Velican is the executive chef of the Hilton Sydney Hotel. He was born in Zagreb, Croatia, where he completed his studies at Zagreb School for Catering and Hospitality. In 1999, he had the honor of being part of the national culinary team during the General Assembly of the United Nations in New York City. There, he had the opportunity to cook for world leaders and dignitaries. It was a very memorable experience for Chef Kruno. In the year 2001, Chef Kruno moved to Australia to further expand his knowledge and dream to lead a culinary brigade in a five-star hotel environment. He has worked for the Hilton Sydney since 2015. In this webinar, Chef Kruno will discuss the reasons why the Hilton Sydney Hotel decided to reduce food waste. He will talk on how did they reduce the food waste in the hotel, why does it matter to them, and how new practices help them to have a competitive edge in the market. After the presentation, there will be time for a Q&A. You have the opportunity to submit text questions by typing your questions in the chat dialog box. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. The presenter might answer some questions during the presentation if needed. Otherwise, we'll collect the questions and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's webinar.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me? Send you warm regards from Sydney. It's actually not that warm. It's only 16 degrees tonight, but for sure the better days are coming. In the next half an hour, I will talk about our experience about food waste study and food waste management that we conduct. We started to work on it roughly around 2.5 years ago, and for us, everything has started during a workshop that was talking about seafood traceability in Australia. During that workshop, Joshua Bishop, who is the head of sustainability for WWF in Australia, approached me and he just asked me, Chef, what do you think? How's your food waste in a hotel? Would you like to do a study? And I said, right, Joshua, let's do it. So the photo that you see, it's me, my natural inhabitant, and the young gentleman on my right was absolutely crucial into this project. His name is Stuart, and he's our chief steward. That photo has been taken by our Hilton headquarter director of sustainability, who heard about our practice. She came to visit us, and she shared this photo in our practice as the best one in the Hilton hotels worldwide. So let me start it, and we're going to talk more about the details of our study. Just to give you a brief indication of Hilton Sydney. So we are located on Joe Street, which is one of the major streets in the city. We are opposite of the Queen Victoria building, which somehow symbolizes CBD. And obviously we are the part of the most recognized hospitality brand, which is Hilton Hotels and Resorts. Our hotel is a home to 579 guest rooms. We do have 28 meeting rooms, so it is quite extensive facility for meetings and events. And within the hotel, we also have 8 food and beverage venues. So there are different type of venues, restaurants, we have 2 bars, we have a cafe, we have a team member restaurant, we have executive lounge. Obviously, we cater for the rooms and for the meetings. And all these venues have very different DNA and very different type of food that we serve there. Throughout the year, we would provide meals for roughly 700,000 guests. And in that process, we would buy per year food that is worth of $4.5 million. We're talking about Australian dollars. More closely to my heart, my team is consists of 97 chefs and stewards, and we're going to take care of your well-being and all your nutritional needs. The nickname of the hotel is the heartbeat of the city, simply because we are in between 2 major streets, Joe Street and Pitt Street in Sydney, and through those streets there's a lot of traffic. So there's always a lot of people roaming around in our hotel. Like anything that is good, it also comes with some side effects. So in our case, we are using energy and water, obviously, to work. We added up 915 tons of waste to the environment, but the good news is 71.7% of that waste we actually recycling through different streams and activities that we are doing. Once when we conduct our food waste study, we actually come up with a projection that if we will continue to behave and work the way how we done, additional 70 tons of food would go into the waste. Or simple English, we come up to $450,000 wasted. Once when we presented those numbers to my leaders in the hotel, this is actually when they started to pay attention. When they start talking about the money and waste of almost $500,000 Australian dollars at the end of the year. So what we actually done next? Give me a sec. We need to do something, and we build up the partnership with WWF and with New South Wales Environmental Protection Authority. We had a series of meetings, and we decided, first of all, to test the waters, to actually find out how much our team members knows about the food waste. Are they actually willing to do something about it? And the questionnaire has been designed to actually find out what is their behavior at work and what is their behavior at home. Is there any differences there? Throughout that period, we communicate a lot to raise awareness through different posters that's been supplied to us through WWF and the New South Wales EPA. We had a lot of collaterals in terms of posters, in terms of publications that we would put in our team member restaurant and any areas where we would see that attracts a little bit bigger gathering of our team members. Like, for example, in front of the lifts where they're waiting, as I said before, in a team member restaurant, in front of the uniform room. We also use the internal TV network. We are lucky to have that in our hotel, and through that TV network we communicate to our team members whatever is happening in a hotel, what VIP guests we are expecting, and we also use that network to raise awareness of food waste. We do have a lot of meetings, a lot of forums in a hotel that happening periodically, and we also use those platforms to talk about the food waste. That was lasted for 2 months. Then we actually have collected all the data from our team members. The questionnaires came back, and to our delight, we actually found out that many of them actually want to do something about it, and they do realize it's actually a problem. This is just example of posters that we used throughout the hotel to raise awareness and to let our team members know what is ahead of them. I would say having a strong partnership with the strong brands like WWF and the New South Wales CPA and their program Love Food Hate Waste help us a lot. They also supplied us with the volunteers who actually monitor our behavior, who measured the waste, and they were absolutely amazing. So as I said before, the study went for 1 month, and it has 3 stages. Just maybe to be aware of, initially we were talking about having kitchen food audit. But then I really didn't like that word audit, because from my experience, I found that when people are getting audited, they sort of change behavior and they become a little bit more reluctant to anything that would come after. So we use a little bit softer term and we called it kitchen food study. So we done this through 1 month, and there was 3 stages of the whole study. So first there was just observations of operations, how do we behave, what are we actually throwing into the waste. Then in early April we sat down again and we started to develop and implement better ways how to work within the kitchen. I will talk a little bit about it later. And then in late April, we had a follow-up with 1 week observations and results of food waste study. So this is just a few, unfortunately, real-life scenarios where we, as you can see, we throw the massive amount of perfectly cooked food. And you know, when I saw this, it just broke my heart. The one thing that actually came from our team members, very often we would heard the saying, "This is the worst part of my job." So throwing food into the garbage was the worst part of their jobs. And to me, it was a good starting point. I actually knew now I have that critical mass that I can actually make the change that I wanted. So this was result of our food waste study. The different colors are actually explaining the different sections where the food waste would come. So red one would be plate. The plate waste was whatever the customers were put on their plates and they just couldn't eat. You know, in reality, our eyes are much bigger than our stomachs, and when we see choices, we sort of lost control of ourselves. The blue one was the buffet waste, and the buffet waste is food that was left once when the service time was over, but we couldn't reuse that food again due to food safety regulations. The purple one was a prep, so that's all the waste that was done in the kitchens while we were prepping food. And again, just a little bit of graph where we actually found the source of the food waste is. You know, so I must say I was actually surprised how much we wasted in our kitchen. You know, being a chef, I thought that my operation is seamless, that there's no way we would waste so much food, but actually we did. In a second study that we conduct, we were focusing just on the preparation, and we were focusing on a proportion of avoidable and unavoidable food waste. And I will tell you a little bit later about that one as well. After we put all the results together, this was our reality. So during the audit, during the study, 1.5 tons of food waste was produced over the 8 days. That was approximately 5,000 meals completely wasted. This eatable food is valued at around $10,000 per week. And if we will continue our practices, and if we will continue work like what we used to, nearly 75 tons of food waste would be produced per year. In a plain English, again, just under $500,000 a year, which is a lot of money. Just to let you know, those numbers are based, and you can see this on the bottom of the slide. It was based on our recipes, and it was based on our presumptions how much people can actually eat, how much people can eat during the conferences or events, or once when we have our buffet out. So all this was based on an assumption that each single person would eat 130 grams protein, 80 grams of carbs, 80 grams of vegetables, which was quite a lot. I mean, once when we put this together, that's a lot of food to eat. So once when we got these numbers, when we got this data, we knew we have a problem. But in our case, and in our story, we decided it will be opportunity to us to do something about it. Once when we all sit down, just to let you know, there's around 20 of us who are in that, I would say, senior leadership roles. So we sat down, we had agreements, and we decided that something needs to be done, something needs to be changed, and we will do the right thing for everyone, for our team members, for our communities, obviously for the environment, and at the end for our business, for our owners, to give them healthier returns. We did create a standard operating procedure. In that procedure, we designated clear roles and responsibilities, who needs to do what and who is responsible for what in that process of better tomorrow. Us in the kitchen, we go back into our draw boards, and we reconsidering the amounts of food that we actually preparing. We reduced our recipes, we took the risks. We also reduced the size of the plate that we were putting on a buffet, simply because if you have a big plate, you need to fill it up, and all that food was uneatable. You can't eat that amount of food. And we were, as I said before, we were more conservative in the preparation. As example, those 130 grams of protein, we crushed down to 100. Carbohydrates and vegetables from 80 grams, we crushed down to 60. And to be honest with you, since we've done that, we didn't run into any problems, or we didn't run out of the food. So it was simply our belief that, and maybe our fear that we might run into the troubles. We also redesigned all our menus. We revised our recipes, and common sense of the way how we plan operation has been changed, and we start taking more risks. One of my advantages that I have here in Australia is I'm working with a multicultural team. Out of 90 of us, probably 50 are coming from the different background, different cultures, and I have such a rich encyclopedia just in front of me. Once when we start talking about unavoidable waste, for example, secondary products like stalks of the vegetables, like peels, like greens, I tap into that source. I would go back to my team and I say to them, guys, what are you doing in your countries? What are you doing in your culture? How did your parents and grandparents, how did they preserve the food? And interestingly enough, they're all starting to open up. They were all starting to talking and sharing the recipes. And we come up with some pretty cool recipes and ideas. When we trim broccoli, you have that thick stalk. My Korean team come up with a recipe to actually make a kimchi, to ferment it and serve it as appetizers during events. We start to blending the vegetables and turn them into the purees and powders that we use as a garnish, or that we use to enhance the food. All that watermelon that we were peel for breakfast, which is hundreds of kilos, some of that proportion we would pickle, and we would serve during the summer with iced tea as a refreshment. With the leftovers of coffee, we would make tiramisus and etc. and etc. We have also started working much closer with the suppliers to reduce unavoidable waste that would come from the packaging. And by packaging, I mean the leaves and offcuts. So we start ordering more ready prepared vegetables and ready cut vegetables to our specifications. We build a strong partnership with two charity organizations, local organizations. One is called Oz Harvest. They would pick up our surplus food from the vents, and the second charity organization would come every morning, and they're still coming, every morning to pick up surplus of food that is left over from the breakfast service, which we detected as a two major contributors to food waste. Hotel has also invested sources into a pulp master, which is a machine that processing only green waste, only organic waste, and that machine actually turning organic waste into the compost that later on is turned into renewable energy. That actually helped us a lot to reduce landfill. I think it's also important to be completely clear with everyone that zero waste in hospitality probably will not happen, and there will always be some amount of waste. But how we're managing and what we're doing is completely up to us. During the communication to our team members to engage them into this activity, we almost talk two different languages. One language was for our team members. We need to touch their hearts. We need to make them understand why is it important to do the right thing for environment, and what is the benefit for the community, and at the end for them, for their families. The second language was designed to obviously upper management and the owners, because they need to understand if they invested sources, what would be their return of investment, what would be benefit for the business. It was a challenging to start with, but when the first result starts to follow in, it became much easier. I think that if anything, my team members understood that responsibility at the end it's on us, and we are only custodians of the present time. We are not the owners of the future. And we need to have the responsibility to leave something behind us. We did face some challenges throughout our journey, and there, as you can see, not every department in a hotel showed the same engagement and same enthusiasm at the beginning. All habits were hard to change, especially with the team members who are with the hotel for some time, and they will always come back. Oh, we've done this for 10 years. Why we need to change now? So it was also a challenge to get them on board as well. Hospitality industry is prone to high rotation of the team members, so we are always somehow in a training mode, and there is never enough time for training because it's such a fast working environment. We also acknowledge that people didn't really have good knowledge of recycling streams and what goes in which garbage bin. In reality, our challenges looks like on the photos. There was a lot of cross contamination. As you can see on the top left, that's probably my favorite photo, because I really don't understand how anyone could put the whole fridge rack into the pulp master. That was absolutely beyond my mind. There was a lot of cross contamination with glasses, with metals. We would find a lot of cutleries. Just to let you know, the pulp master has a magnet on the bottom, and it catches all these metals. But obviously when it's catching it, it's also breaking the machine as well. So we did have some costs to fix the machine and put it put it back into the operation. All of this didn't put us down. We kept going because we knew that we are on the right way. To establish accountability and traceability, we labeled all our waste bin with location where they're coming from. That actually helped us a lot when bins were contaminated, and we would simply push them back into the department. Charge of fixing the machine came back to that department, and at the end they need to explain themselves in front of the senior management when profit and loss reports would come. We kept our communication very alive, which was very important, and we celebrated good results, and we did encourage positive behaviors by simply words, giving vouchers for the restaurant's dinner, just awarding people with a cake, and we were quite loud about it. And somehow, while we started to do a food waste study, the Hilton also announced their sustainable commitment through the Travel with Purpose program. And this is some targets that Hilton put in front of themselves to reach by 2030. And for us, I'm not going to talk about every single one of them. There's plenty of them here. But for us, one of the targets was to reduce food waste sent to landfill by 50%. It's not ideal, because I believe that we need to look at the prevention, not really the consequences. But it is a good start, at least to reduce the amount of food that goes into landfill means a lot. So once when we find out what we're doing, and once when we applied all action points, I would love to share with you results that we achieved. You can see part of my team. They're very youngish, very enthusiastic, and it's absolute joy working with them. When I talk to you about pairing up with the charity organizations, this is something that we've done for our community. So together with the partnership with Oz Harvest, and this is our results for 2017, we donated almost 2 tons of food, and that was enough to provide meals for almost 5,500 less fortunate people. This is Addison Road Community, and that's a charity organization collecting our surplus of food from our breakfast buffet. And actually you can see on a photo people who are actually receiving that help. And we actually went there, and it was quite emotional for us to see how that small step changing and making happy so many people, because simply they have something that we take granted, that this is good quality food for their breakfast. We also saw, and I'm very happy to see this, we also saw team engagement index has increased. Like any multinational company in the world, we also measuring a lot of stuff. We have so many data, it's not even funny. So one of the things that we're measuring is also team engagement index. And in 2017, this is results that main kitchen and stewarding had achieved. Having in mind that I almost have 100 people in my team, and this is some amazing results. It was also great to see that often we would saw comments in engagement index that for my chef's job is not a job. It has a different meaning, because they clearly see that how their contribution make a positive change. And thanks to the results above, for me it's now much easier to deal with the challenges at the workplace. We became much more adaptable to change. We are more productive, we are more creative, we have better communication, and in the end, we have a really good balance between work and our life. We actually, very often I hear that from my teams that they don't see workplace as a place to work. For them, they come into their playground. They have a really good really good team vibe. They're playing with the food, with the recipes. They've done a good job, and they go home with a smile on their faces. There was also a clear benefit for the business and for the bottom line as well, as a result of our food waste study. At the end of 2017, the food cost was 200,000 Australian dollars better off than the budget. We were also $40,000 better off in the waste management compared with the budget in 2017. So if you remember in the beginning, when I told you that initially we were facing $500,000 loss, we turned this into $240,000 benefits to our bottom line. So $750,000, it's a lot of money, and there's a clear benefit for business to do the right thing. Due to our travel with purpose and corporate responsibility, we also can see that we have a competitive edge, especially for people who decided where they're going to take business. And with many of them, with many decision makers, we started to share same values. And with our strong environmental practices, it's actually decision-making advantage, and that is especially noticed with upcoming generations. Many of these decision makers are millennials, and they want to know what we're doing, how we're sourcing our food, is our seafood sustainable, what we're doing with the surplus, and what are our environmental practices. Obviously, in the kitchens, workflow became much more productive and streamlined, and we did manage to reduce our food waste by 15%. It's still 5% to go, but I'm pretty much sure that we will get there. For me, I think it's very also important that stronger educational messages are sent out to the public about responsible eating. We can see many cultures still see food as a sign of wealth, and for them, having that waste and having that surplus, it means it's kind of show how successful they are, and I think it's completely wrong. Right now at this stage, we are also partnership with a company that's called Win Now. They have installed scales within our operation, and we are measuring waste that coming from a breakfast operation, and how can we be better there. It's going now for a month and a half, and the first initial reports are showing off that we are wasting 46 Australian cents per guest, but it also includes unavoidable waste. So we are definitely on the right track as well. To finish my presentation, that was our short story. We know that our story is only a drop of water, but we are very proud of it, and we really hope that will inspire the others. While I still have you here, I just want to talk roughly about the Pulp Master, and actually how much is actually cost. The hotel didn't buy unit. We have a lease with the company, and our rental would come up to $17,000 per year. To remove the product, it cost $130 per ton, and in 2017 we did dispose around 120,000 tons of green waste. That comes to the total cost of 32,000 Australian dollars. To compare with the landfill, New South Wales government imposing heavy fines for every single ton that goes into the landfill, and the charge is $385 per ton, but that excludes transports. Transport is $250 per pickup. So that if we will continue to put food into the landfill, the total cost per year would be $60,000. So obviously, just to do this, the savings was additional $26,000. So definitely, there is a lot of benefits for everyone, for team members, for the community, for the environment, and the end, a healthy return to the owners as well. Thank you very much. That's about from me. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you very much, Chef Kruno, for your presentation. I would like to give thanks to all the participants that have participated in today's webinar. But before we conclude this webinar, I would like to inform you that a recording of the webinar will be posted on the Municipal Solid Waste Knowledge platform of the MSW initiative. Right here, you can see the web link is www.waste.ccaccoalition.org. Again, thank you for joining the webinar. Here are our email address in case you have any questions. Please email Chef Kruno Velican or email me. Before we end, I would like to please remind you to check the MSW Knowledge Platform for any upcoming webinars. Lastly, on behalf of the CCAC MSW initiative, I would like to give a big thanks to Chef Kruno for his time to prepare and give the presentation today on this very important topic. And we wish him the best of luck in this enterprise. And we know that these kind of topics are very important for all municipalities. We think that that he is doing a really good job. So congratulations again. Thank you again for joining, and we'll see you in upcoming webinars. Have a great day.